Okay, hello.
Hello there.
Thanks for agreeing, Karen, to talk with me today. This interview is for the 2015 North American Systemic Constellations Conference coming up in November 12th to 15th in San Diego. So excited about this conference coming up. And so today my guest is Karen Carnabucci, and her talk is on Friday, November 13th, 10:30 to 12. And her topic is Eyes on Cards, How Images from the Tarot and Other Decks Support Healing. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, the first question everyone wants to know is, how do you explain constellations to a stranger?
Well, I explain it in a lot of different ways, but there's always a basic way that I explain it, which is that we investigate a sense of relationships with others, especially in our family, whether it's our immediate family or whether it's the ancestral family. We all carry some kind of inner sense about what that relationship looks like, feels like, and how we experience it. So when we do a constellation, we have a chance to actually externalizing it, putting it out there so we can actually see it in a different way, in a new way, rather than having it all jumbled up inside of us. And then, better yet, we can work with that image with the help of a constellation facilitator, sometimes by ourselves if we're familiar with the constellation approach, and we can begin to change and alter and modify that image to something that feels more whole, more complete, more useful in our lives. And for me, this fits in so well with the tarot, because the tarot cards, if you know about them, they're all about images and how we can work with images for ourselves.
Great. Okay, well, yes, now I'd really like to hear about your talk, Eyes on Cards. Tell us what you're planning to talk about.
Well, I've been working with the tarot for many, many years. I actually am not even sure how long I've been working with the tarot. It predated me becoming a constellator. It predated me working with psychodrama, which is my other love. It predated even being a therapist. So the cards have been around for a very long time. And I have integrated them into the work that I do on a number of levels. And I also teach a tarot class here in Racine, Wisconsin as well. And I'm writing a book on the tarot and how I use it. For the conference, for the Constellations Conference itself, I'm going to be showing and telling how I use the cards in a number of ways, particularly in warming up the group or warming up an individual if I'm working with an individual. The images, we all agree the images are really, really powerful. And so I not always, because I have many, many ways to meet the group and get the group acquainted and get the group warmed up. But one of the things that I have done many times successfully is I take a deck of cards. It could be a tarot deck. It could be an oracle deck, which are becoming very, very popular now. Or some other kind of cards. I've even used really pictures from greeting cards sometimes that I think are especially beautiful and evocative. And we use those images to start stimulating thoughts about what we may want in the session. So it helps many times to clarify our intentions and to focus on what we'd like to get out of. It can, in a group where people don't know each other very well, it can serve as a way to get acquainted. Sometimes I just take my deck of cards, I either pass it around the group, sometimes I lay the cards on the floor or in another location, and I'll say, well, let's pick a card. And people pick a card. Sometimes it's face up, sometimes it's face down. And then please share with one other person about the card you've chosen, about the image that you see, about what you like in the image, about what you don't like in the image. Maybe we won't even talk yet. Maybe we'll just literally look at the image together. And that is also a really beautiful way of getting people acquainted, having them start to consider images that they look at, having to start noticing how they project onto an image, both consciously and unconsciously. And I think that really can get people in the mood for this idea of setting up an image and starting to look at the way images can not only be seen, but also be transformed.
Very interesting. That's a great idea. Yes, I love it as an opener. Wow. So you have some cards with you now, I understand. You were thinking of perhaps pulling one?
I do, and they're actually right here. And I do want to say, when we are looking at the cards, and I know that some people watching this video may be very familiar with the cards and some people not so familiar. I do want to say that the cards, these cards, and I'm using right now the deck that is known as the Waite Rider deck, sometimes known as the Waite Rider Smith deck. This is one of the most beloved, most traditional decks that there is. It's the one that I use to teach when I am teaching the tarot, although there are many. I have another one here on the other side of my desk. These are actually the ancestors of our modern playing cards. So this also, to me, fits in very well with this idea of ancestors and respecting and honoring the ancestors. For instance, right now we're looking at a pentacle. I think that can be seen easily. And the pentacle is relating to divine feminine, relating to nature, Mother Nature, what is of value. And so in the modern playing cards, the pentacle has actually become another symbol, and that would be the diamond. The diamond, also from the earth, definitely something we consider of value, very symbolic of engagements or of love or of precious events, right? So we can see how through the years this card and this image continues to be alive, but in a slightly different way. Oh, and then we have the Fool. That just came up. I didn't plan this. So the Fool, here I'll let you see it all better. The Fool is the 0 card. It is a card of the major arcana, and it shows an individual with his or her faithful little dog right there at the heels. And this is an individual beginning on a journey, not sure what will be seen, what will be found, what will be noticed. And to me, this is absolutely the perfect card. And I didn't plan it this way, honest. I really didn't. This is how the tarot works. It's how the tarot works. This is the person who is beginning the search. And literally, as you can see, taking a leap off the cliff. We see the wand that the Fool is carrying, and then we see a little tiny suitcase or bag at the end of the wand, and that's the background. That is what is in the back. That is the history. And interestingly enough, it is in the back, just as we experience the placement of the ancestors in constellation. So there's a sense of leaping off into the unknown. And that is really how I do see constellations, that we have our history, we have our story, we have all kinds of ideas about what's happened in our lives. Maybe we've been telling the story again and again and again and again, literally for years and years. But then when we enter the constellation process, we are actually stepping off into the unknown, and we're willing to be surprised by seeing something new or finding something new, something that we have never seen before, something we've never considered before, something that we don't even know consciously. And to me, this is why constellations are so very valuable. I mean, certainly there's other modalities and approaches that are also very valuable. But constellations for me adds a special piece that says, let's go into the unknown. Let's find out what you don't know. So we're not just reworking what we already know again and again, or talking about the same event or the same story again and again, but really are giving ourselves permission to find this new place of being. And of course, in constellations, it literally is a new place. And in the very best of circumstances, it's a healthier place. It's a more complete place. And that to me is, so important. So again, the tarot shows us a pictorial journey from being the beginner, the seeker, the fool because the fool's kind of dumb. The fool doesn't know anything. And that's, in a way, how we want to think about constellations too. I trained with Heinz Stark from Germany, very lucky to have that opportunity to train with him, as well as many other great trainers. And I would ask him, how do you know stuff? When you're in the field, how do you know? I was so interested. How do you know? And he says, I just act like I'm stupid. And I let the field inform me. And I think that is such a good stance for a constellation facilitator, which is to be open to the field, be open to being surprised, be open to whatever wants to show up, even if it's something that you never dreamed of and never thought of.
Yes, fabulous. That was so cool. Do you ask clients, perhaps when you do one-on-one, if they're interested in that as a tool to open up an individual?
Yes and no. Me and come to work with me know that I am an alternative practitioner and know that I am not going to be your traditional talk therapist. And I certainly, on my website, in the way that I promote myself, in the way that I do presentations, people do get very quickly that I am offering some very, very unusual ways to grow, to heal, to learn, to gain spiritual awareness. I do have to be watchful that some people believe in some of those old myths, those unfortunate myths about the tarot. There's a lot of misinformation about the tarot, that it is somehow devilish or somehow not very Christian, which I often have to correct. The fact is there's many symbols. It's a multicultural, literally book of images that come from all cultures. And indeed, there are many images that relate to Christianity, as well as paganism, as well as the East, and so forth and so forth and so forth. So I try to tune into the client first and I do this with constellations as well. I try to tune into the client first to find out how far they want to go, how far they want to stretch, what feels right for them to investigate, and what feels like a little bit too much. If for any reason, of course, they have a certain belief about the tarot and a belief that it is going to be not helpful or harmful, I certainly do not use it. And that's when I might use another card deck, oracle cards. There are many, many beautiful decks. Or, as I said, literally greeting cards, because it's the images that are actually universal. We can look at, I don't have her immediately available on my deck, we can look at the Empress, which is the Great Mother, the mother of Persephone, and she went to literally the ends of the earth to rescue her child. Or we can take a picture of the Madonna and baby Jesus. It's really the same thing, in a way. Love of mother for child.
This has been so interesting, Karen. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's good food for thought as we look upon going to the conference. So again, Karen's talk is Friday the 13th, 10:30 to 12. Eyes on Cards, How Images from the Tarot and Other Decks Support Healing. Karen Carnabucci. I hope I pronounced your name right there. So thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. I did not realize it was Friday the 13th. How interesting.
Yes. If I got my dates right, yes. All right, Karen, thanks again.
You're welcome.
Take care.